relative to public safety. The fourth week of January just continues to demonstrate real progress, just encouraging trends in reducing the uptick in violent crime, particularly that we saw even at the start of 2023. Year to date, just stats comparing the first 3 weeks of 2023, even as we look at 2022, just show that the total number of crimes just against persons are down in our community, in our city, by 28%. Looking at armed robberies, down 36%. Carjackings continue to trend down by 63%. This week compared even to last week, we just saw fewer homicides and auto thefts throughout the city. So the work continues to happen. Guns also continues to be taken from the street, even a great night on last night. One of the major goals even of our Violent Crime Reduction Task Force, that I initiated by executive order, is really to evaluate available tools, technologies, force multipliers even, to aid the New Orleans Police Department and our city agencies as it relates to crime fighting, and also just receiving and processing critical information. This really led to the recommendation provided by the task force to move forward with a real partnership with Ring and starting Neighbors by Ring. And this is just a great, again, another force multiplier program that presents another opportunity for our residents, one that's providing our residents, again, with a tool to assist in providing imperative information to law enforcement agencies throughout our city, and that unified effort led by our superintendent of the New Orleans Police Department. And this is, again, engaging our residents to help us solve incidents of crime in our community. Also, I just wanted to touch base on, after having a real understanding and listening to Dr. Vegno, looking at the data in our community around fentanyl. It's something that we continue to be laser focused on as it relates to public health and also just the drugs in our community. Having been faced with two of our officers here recently having to be administered Narcan really led me to bolstering, I would say, our efforts to educating our workforce and even training our workforce on administering Narcan when necessary. This has really proven to be, I would say, something that's been very effective. We started training very heavily grounds patrol as an example in terms of administering Narcan. Well, we're moving forward with that on all public facing agencies, particularly those that have to respond, whether it's inspections and the like, code enforcement and the like, throughout our city, just wanting to make sure, again, that our employees are trained to administer Narcan based on the levels of fentanyl that we have seen in our city. We know that this is something that is happening across the United States of America. Some of my brother and sister mayors even joining them in D.C. at the U.S. Conference of Mayors over a week ago. I mean, they are saying that in some instances, fentanyl is like a weapon of mass destruction in their communities. And so we're just wanting to be as proactive as possible relative to what we're seeing. But also, I tell you, it hit home in a very meaningful way when two of our officers had to be administered Narcan. Also, I wanted to just touch on Mardi Gras just a little bit. Just again, just a great collaboration that I'm very proud of as it relates to working with our crew community, working with Sheriff Hudson, and just in a collaborative manner with law enforcement agencies across the state coming to work with us to support us having a very safe and healthy Mardi Gras season. I wanted to also speak to, there were some issues I've been hearing over and over about Crew de Vue. It needs to be clarified that the route that has been embraced is one that was supported and put forward actually by Crew de Vue, going back to their original route. And so with that, we'll continue to make improvements as we see Mardi Gras unfold, as we look at 2024, 2025, and the like. But this is a full complement that we should all be proud of, and of course restoring this great, the greatest free show on earth here in the city of New Orleans. Later on this afternoon, I will join our early childhood community, as we really lift up the early childhood millage that was approved by the residents of the city of New Orleans, and of course going into effect January 2023. This is a 20-year investment in early childhood seats for children in our community. And when you talk about poverty, when you talk about disparity gaps in our city, it's totally linked to how we give our children the best start or the least start. This is a true effort to give our children the best start, clearly meeting them where they are with early childhood education, but it's also just aligned and woven into other initiatives that the city of New Orleans that we're pushing forward, even as it relates to our universal home health visits. This is about visiting women who give birth within that first week, coming home or getting home. They will be met with and visited by a healthcare professional in their home. It's just a way that we can get in there, meet that mother, that family where they are, help that life stay alive, and of course the resources that that mother needs also to stay alive, to stay healthy. So with that, I'm going to stop there, turn it over to John, and we'll just go into Q&A as you all deem fit and necessary.
Yes, good morning, Mayor. You mentioned that there were 2 officers that recently were administered Narcan. Can you give us any more information
No.
about that? When that happened?
Sure. So what I can say, over 3 weeks ago, it's been about 3 weeks now, my time, right? But I'm going to say about 3 weeks now, 2 of our officers, yes, were responding. Actually, it was a bag, I believe, picked up something. At any rate, fentanyl was all over it, and it did require our officers to be administered Narcan, and of course watched to make sure that they had a full recovery, and that has happened. But I have to say, it's given me just a laser focus on where this is in our community through our city and how it impacts our people, but clearly the people that we depend on to respond to the needs of our residents in service. And so with that, we're just moving forward with an aggressive campaign, I would say, of getting our employees the tools that they need, the education that they need to administer Narcan if they need to do that. I'm even making sure that my team around me is very clear and trained as well, because I am very much prone when I get out of my car and when I go places, I have a trash bag. I do sometimes put on gloves, and then my team, don't touch that. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't like litter, I pick up trash. But it's caused me, to even just kind of be more focused and just assess, my whereabouts, and then how I act and how I respond. But even educating myself on it, sometimes you can't smell it, you really can't see it, and it's in some cases, it's in many places in our city. So it's something that we're focused on, and we'll just continue to educate our community, educate, our visitors, that this is not just New Orleans. It's definitely off the charts in many other places, but we want to get ahead of it as best we can.
Paul Murphy. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Last
Thank
week
you.
You talked about the local law enforcement community coming together to help New Orleans. You mentioned Baton Rouge. You mentioned some of the other outlying sheriff's offices. What we found out yesterday is that most of the major sheriff's offices in this area exception of JPSO, are not going to be participating. Also, we learned that most of the major police departments in the area, we're talking about Gretna, Kenner, Slidell, are not going to be participating either. And Baton Rouge Police Department won't be participating either. Are you still confident that you have the numbers that you need to return to a full Mardi Gras? And if so, can you click off for us the names of some of the agencies that have already committed and how many officers they would be bringing?
So what I will say is that the complement of law enforcement officers that we have is something that, yes, I'm absolutely confident that we will be able to protect and serve our community throughout the Carnival season. And this is without all of those agencies that you mentioned. So it's without them right now that we are confident in our ability to protect and serve. I think I mentioned places like Terrebonne Parish. I mentioned even Jeanerette, some of the smaller parishes, but that are coming to our aid, meaning with providing us with law enforcement officers who want to be present in the city of New Orleans to protect and serve. And that's what we want. We want people who want to be here. And that's what we've provided, meaning the opportunity. And I'm very pleased with the response that we have received, because we are able to say that we will have Mardi Gras in our city in ways that we want to celebrate Carnival.
Could you ask your comms team or the sheriff's office to release a list of agencies that are coming?
Sure, that information will be provided. I believe that the sheriff just wants to, kind of wait until she has a full complement, but the sheriff is receiving that information, as you know, as our partner in this, and there will be, and as I'm told, absolutely a release of those agencies and partners who have decided to come to New Orleans, who've chosen to come to support us having a healthy and safe Carnival season.
Fox 8 and Van Diaz.
Good morning.
Recently, Ceasefire, the organization Ceasefire, went before the council asking for funding to start working again. I don't believe they've been working, they said, since 2020. What are your thoughts on Ceasefire, the organization Ceasefire? And what they did, up until 2020, and do you think that would be helpful again in the city?
Sure, so Cure Violence is what we have embraced in the city, and that is modeled around and aligned with Ceasefire. I think that any force multipliers that we can bring on board, that we can fund, that we can engage to be a part of our comprehensive and holistic approach to addressing violent crime and root causes to crime in our community are ones I know that I support and that I fully embrace. And so we'll work through those levels of partnership and, of course, funding that is required. But I think, my track record speaks to wanting to engage and work with organizations on a holistic approach, again, to meet our people where they are, focusing on root causes, looking at this from the lens of public health. And we need all hands on deck.
Question about sanitation. City is currently negotiating some type of contract amendment with RDI that will result in additional payments. The city has already agreed to a settlement with Metro, in which the city is paying about $4 million to Metro's estate. Those two companies had almost identical claims against the city when it comes to the pandemic and Ida, and claims of being underpaid during those events. Is this an acknowledgement that they have some kind of claim on that, and that the city does owe them some kind of back pay?
Well, we're working with and through the issues on sanitation as it relates to RDI. We do understand the capacity issues, no doubt about that, and the constraints that RDI has been working through and working with. We are negotiating with RDI. That is ongoing now, and I'm very confident that we will be able to ensure that residents have pickup service. This is about getting trash off the street and sustaining that. But even still, as you mentioned, the city of New Orleans is still paying for augmented services to ensure that trash is picked up. So we're working through it to make sure that that happens. RDI is not at full capacity, and so we're going to continue to negotiate to make sure that they have the resources that they need. That's fair, right? That's fair and equitable, and that's the premise that we're working on
But I mean, with
and under.
the Metro stuff, I mean, Metro is already not picking up anymore, and yet the city agreed to a settlement. So
Metro is totally different. They're totally different.
The question is, does the city owe either of those companies or both of them back pay related to Ida and the pandemic?
What I will say is that the issue with Metro has been resolved, so I'm not speaking to that at all. As it relates to RDI, we're continuing to negotiate with RDI and also embracing, one, the challenges that they continue to have. That's why we're paying the city for augmented services, because they do lack capacity. But as it relates to and combing over the data, we're going to make sure that the city is fair in dealing with RDI.
One question on the officers who were
And then we
administered
have to-
Narcan. Yes, I apologize, but can you just elaborate a little bit more? What sort of symptoms were they exhibiting when they were administered this?
You know that fentanyl can cause you to have an overdose.
So were they overdosing on fentanyl?
They were administered Narcan.
Can you describe what?
I can describe that I'm glad, first of all, that we did not lose two of our officers due to protecting and serving this community and the levels of fentanyl that they did interface with. They were administered Narcan, and therefore they are alive and well on today. So that is what I will say. Fentanyl is deadly, it can kill, and it triggers an overdose almost immediately. Narcan was administered. We saved the lives of our officers. Thank God for that.
WGNO, and then last question, WDSU.
First of all, good work, Mayor, with getting all the necessary security for the parades. But my
Thank
question is, what is your concern with the security, and what's your message to the people to make sure that this Mardi Gras is safe?
Sure. So, it's with every Mardi Gras, every large event we host in our city, but clearly Mardi Gras, because it's not a one-day, event. And that's something that we've proven even to the federal government, which has allowed this city to be at a Tier 2 rating relative to this event. And so, one, I'm always focused on a unified command that we have in place and always have in place. I've focused on the level of capacity. That's one of the reasons why I started talking about law enforcement and coverage during Mardi Gras as early as July and August. Because again, as the mayor of the city, I have to look forward. I have to look beyond. And that's what not only I did, but my team really began to think about solutions that we could render to ensure that we have the capacity necessary to have a full complement of officers protecting the streets and routes in the city of New Orleans. And we do have that. That is my top concern. Also, just to people, hey, leave your guns at home. This is a safe celebration. Everyone has a right to celebrate, and have a good time without any interference of violence around them or any place in this city. So it is just wanting this city to be as safe as possible, not just around Carnival, but absolutely during Carnival, but ensuring also that other areas of our city are also protected while the Mardi Gras season is unfolding.
Last question, WDSU.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
If you don't mind, first of all, like you mentioned, a lot of crime is down, homicides are down year to date, aggravated assaults down year to date, things like that. But there is one area people have been concerned about, and that's cars being stolen. That's at 130% so far this year. Is there a specific plan in place right now to address that?
So yes, there is. The superintendent does have a vehicle strategy, and that's one of the reasons why we're seeing we're trending, we're starting to see that pivot in the right direction. And so you'll hear more from Superintendent Woodfork on tomorrow as she puts forward her strategic plan and initiatives relative to fighting violent crime that also speaks to car thefts in the city of New Orleans, and just some robust efforts as we're even getting abandoned vehicles off the streets of New Orleans, as we've seen that they're kind of aiding and abetting in violent crime in the city of New Orleans.
And then one last thing, do you have any reaction to Rick Farrell almost entirely funding the recall effort against you?
Well, I'm just going to stay focused on doing my job as it relates to this individual. Yeah. Thank you. All right.